everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Theater Tuesday. And today we're talking about October theater, everything that's been going on. And I am theater critic Rachel Wagner, and Maren is here.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good.
Yeah. So did you have a good October? Fun
I
October?
did. I was thinking about it when I was kind of looking through everything, and I feel like it was more of a, um, I missed a lot. Like there's tons of stuff I wanted to see this month that I didn't get to because I have a lot of kids and we had a lot of concerts because a lot of my kids are musicians and performers in their own right, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But so part of what I'm going to want to talk about is all the stuff that's playing here in Utah that I didn't get to, that I'm sad about that I didn't get to see.
Well, and you have a trip coming up that you've been preparing for, so that's fun.
Yes. Yes, I am going to the American Theater Critics Association annual convention in New York. I have got most of my shows lined up that I get to go and review. I've been working with press agents. They're really wonderful to work with us, even though we're out of towners. And so it's fun, but everything isn't set in stone. So I've got like about 4 out of my 5 slots filled. And I'm working with the final press agent. She and I have had contact. We're just kind of working back and forth, setting everything up. So yeah.
Is it mostly new shows that you're able to get?
So I'm seeing all new shows actually. One off Broadway, 4 on Broadway at this point. But one of the Broadway ones is still kind of iffy. And then I'm probably going to spend money to see Sweeney Todd, because they won't give us tickets to that one if they don't need to.
Yeah, they're selling out.
Yeah, but I want to see it. So that's probably going to be the one thing that I'll just buy a ticket and see.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Sweeney Todd coming up because I actually saw it twice this month. So I didn't see it.
And that's one of the ones I'm sad that I haven't gone to see it, because that's something that I've done almost every October for years. Is gone and seen a production of Sweeney Todd. I love it. And
yeah, it's a good show. I didn't see it in New York, even though I'm like a massive Josh Groban fan. I've actually seen him 4 times in concert.
Yeah, and I saw him in Natasha Pierre in the Great Comet.
Oh yeah.
I saw him on Broadway there. So
I was tempted, but I was like, I knew that I was going to be seeing it twice.
Sure. So you're like,
this month, so here. Yeah. And I knew that especially the production of the Grand, I knew that Dallin Bayless, who was the lead, I knew that he was Broadway quality. So and
that's the one I want to see. The one I wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to see, was the one at the Grand.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was just like, I'll see other stuff, because I just know I'll see Sweeney Todd plenty.
That's the hardest part with these plans with New York. Everyone keeps saying, are you going to see this? Or are you going to see that? You don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to New York so many times. I'm very New York spoiled. I recognize it. I lived there for many years. I have so many friends there. So this time I'm trying really hard to see stuff I wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
To go out of my way and out of my comfort zone, because I've done it all. I've seen the Hadestown, I've seen the Hamilton, I've seen the Six, I've seen all of those things. So I really am. I'm gonna, like, one of the things I'm seeing is the Jaja's African hair braiding, and I went out of my way because it's not something I would have picked, but at the same time it is along the lines of my like my doctorate dissertation was on refugee women and job searching, and it is a lot of my career, and so I'm very interested in it.
Yeah,
but it's not something that I probably would have gone and bought a ticket for myself, and so I feel like that's why I should go see it.
Yeah. So well, I'll have to send you Tim Leninger. He's a YouTuber theater critic, and he did a review of that. And had pretty good things to say about it.
No, I'm very excited because I actually have done a lot of research, because a lot of the women that I worked with who were refugees who came to the US, which is why I chose my dissertation topic. A lot of cosmetology schools here in the US do not train on ethnic hair. And so they would come here knowing how to do hair braiding and other things. But then if they wanted to gain the skills and knowledge of training to do hair here in the US, they couldn't. Like the skills are not taught in the schools here, and it's a big controversial thing and very frustrating.
Well, I remember
So,
even
yeah.
a couple of years ago, uh now I can't, the name of the show is slipped my mind, but I remember um I wish I could remember the name of the show, but I just remember being amazed that it was a show that had a primarily African American cast, that that they were saying how the stylist, even for like you would expect a show like that to have people trained on
Hair.
how to do that, to do hair on African Americans. And they were saying that even then they had to go in and basically do their own hair because the people
Yep.
were
Yeah,
clueless.
no, it happens all the time, and it's a big deal. And even my children are biracial, and
Yeah.
I'm very careful about where I take them to get their hair done.
Hmm.
And I will interview hairstylists before and say,
Yeah.
do you know how to lift color on ethnic hair?
Yeah.
Because people in Utah do not.
Yeah.
And so I'm very,
That
very
makes
interested
sense.
in the show for that reason
Yeah.
alone. And yeah, so I'm also going to be going to see Here Lies Love, which is, all Filipino cast, and my children are Filipino.
Hmm.
So I'm very excited for that. So yeah, just things like that where the trip will be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really, really good. Tim Lininger also reviewed that, and he just said that don't that you just have to be careful because I guess a whole section of the theater is all standing.
Yeah, no, I
Oh, that's
talked with
good that you got
the press
seated.
agent, they actually were very, very helpful, and they asked
Oh,
me
that's good.
standing or seated and whatever, and I said, yeah, I definitely need to be seated, and they've been very, very
Oh,
helpful.
that's
But yeah,
good.
I do know that
Oh,
some of them have to be standing, so they've been so lovely.
oh,
So
that's good. I mean, I learned a lot. So the next time that I go in my recent trip, I will like kind of know what to do as far as like the requesting the tickets,
yeah,
and because I accidentally went to a preview and then I found out, oh, I can't,
you
I get,
can't publish the review
yeah.
until you're,
So
yeah,
then I had to get permission, but I didn't know that I had to get specific press photos
yeah,
from them. And
yeah.
so at first my review was published without photos, and
Hmm.
I don't know, I just learned a lot. So next time
Yeah, it's a
I
whole
will,
different ball game than doing
yeah.
reviews here, and this is now probably my fifth or sixth reviewing trip, and it's pretty easy now. But my
Mhm.
first time, I had no idea. So
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, Russ is very patient with us
yes,
and with
yep,
me, and helping with that. So it was because that was the first time I've ever had a review of a Broadway show published in like a
yeah,
third, not my own content.
yeah,
So that was pretty fun.
yeah. And you got to do Gutenberg, which is way cool because
Hmm.
that's one I had on my list. But I think that's cool that you got to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, so I emailed them and I said, this is the situation. I apologize that I didn't, know and I saw it. Would it be okay if I, posted? And they said, they agreed. They said that we'd be okay with that. And so that was very nice, of them.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a fun show. It's a show that completely relies on the charm of its two lead stars
sure,
and
sure,
their chemistry, and it has
mhm,
some amusing jokes, but it
yeah,
it is one that I kind of feel like it didn't need to be a musical. Like it should
yeah,
have, I think most of what was strong was in the book. It was in the jokes, but like
mhm.
I don't remember like any of the songs.
Yeah. And
And
there are shows like that, and I've always
yeah,
been shocked when I get to shows like that because I love the musical. And every time watch
sure.
a show where I'm like, oh my gosh, that shouldn't have been a musical, it surprises me. But there are shows where
Yeah.
it's like, we probably didn't need the music.
Yeah. So it was a fun night. Probably not something I'll remember, or it wasn't like great, but it was an enjoyable night of theater. If I lived in New
Mhm.
York, it would be worth a
Sure,
recommendation. Yeah.
sure.
Um, and it is kind of fun that I don't know if you knew that it got its start, one of its things was here in Utah.
I did
It
not know that
Yeah,
until I
it
read your review.
oh really?
When
Cool.
I read your review, I was like, oh, that's brand new information for me. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, good. Yeah. And Plan B Theater Company, I guess they did way back in 2007, because this is one of those, got to admire these writers. I mean, they've been working on this thing for
Right. They
since,
stick with it.
oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. But yeah, and so I did a whole episode recapping my New York trip, but it was, really fun. I got to see 5 shows while I was out there, and they were all enjoyable. I liked all of them. I got even I because they're on a Monday, and so you don't have that much options on a Monday.
Right.
So I saw the Dracula Comedy of Terrors, which is in the same, it's off Broadway. It's in the same place that does the Play That Goes Wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So both of those you can see on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is super smart of them.
Yeah.
Be like,
No, I think that the companies that do Monday shows or Sunday night shows are so smart, because you're going to make money on the tourists who don't understand the Broadway schedule.
Yeah. And so, because you have those two, and then the only other 2 options right now, at least on Broadway, is Chicago, which I've already seen, and the Blue Man Group. That's it.
Right. Right. Yep.
So next time, I guess I'll be stuck with the Blue Man Group.
Right. Right.
And I love the Play That Goes Wrong, but I've seen it many times.
Right. Exactly.
So
yeah.
why not see something new? And I enjoyed the Dracula parody, especially Dracula. He was really funny.
Right.
Yeah, he stole, and I was surprised how much of the Dracula story is really there. Like pretty much everything from the Dementor on the ship to all the way until which surprised me for that kind of parody, that it really had the whole book.
That they would go through that much of the story. That's interesting.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. I saw Merrily We Roll Along,
which I'm pretty jealous of that you got to see that, because I know that's a hard ticket to get to.
I mean, that was my splurge. It was expensive. It was almost $200, and I was from the second to the back, and these seats were so I felt like I had vertigo. They were really steep.
That theater, I've been in that theater, and it is like I've sat in the balcony of that theater, and you do feel like you're gonna fall almost.
Yeah, but it was neat. It was neat.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
I've been watching some videos of Jonathan and Lindsay and Daniel.
Yeah,
the chemistry between those 3, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize like how much of it is about Franklin, Jonathan's character. He really is the focus of the of the story.
That show is totally his arc, if you will.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then I saw The Shark Is Broken.
Yeah, I had not heard of that show until you said you were seeing, or you had posted that you were seeing that, and I thought, oh wow, okay.
The performances were really good. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about them come Tony, time. It might be hard because I think it's closing pretty soon, and they have short-term memory, but they were excellent and like almost identical to the actors. Like they really got it. But I do think it's one of those shows that you have to be kind of a Jaws fan.
Right. To understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, because even I think I'm a Jaws fan, but it's been like a year or 2 since I'd seen it. And I wish that I had watched it the weekend before, so it was like really fresh, and I would have gotten all the nuance and all the, but still that was a lot of fun. And then I saw Back to the Future.
I'm jealous of that one too, actually, because I've heard the tech is just amazing.
And it is one that I think, how are they going to transition this to regionals, because it is so based on, just all of the spectacle, the lights, the especially the second act with the car and everything is really impressive. And I think, how do you do this on a I don't know how
on a regional stage?
Yeah, it is very, very samey to the movie. Like, down to costume choices look identical, aside from the addition of songs. Like if
Right.
somebody's kind of like meh on the movie, don't see this show. It is,
Yeah, it's fan service. That's what
yeah,
I've heard,
it
that it is
really
a
is.
fan service show.
As a huge fan of the movie, it
Mhm.
worked for me, and it was so fun, the spectacle. And I think it was also helped by that was the one that I went to with my friend,
Mhm.
and every other one I was by myself.
Sure.
And so I think that probably helped it a little bit, but I just had a great time with it. It was really fun. But
Cool.
but anyway, yeah. Um so this month, aside from the Broadway trip, there were a couple that I think we both saw. I saw Rocky Horror.
Yep, and I just got back from that last night.
Yeah. So what'd you think?
So here's the thing, I've never seen the movie. I
Okay.
I don't know, it just was something that was never, and it wasn't like I didn't, I was never like worried or thinking I shouldn't see the movie. It just never really,
Mm-hmm.
never
Yeah.
did.
Never did.
I was a little young, like
Mm-hmm.
when it came out. I was born in 79, so it came out
Right.
earlier than me,
Yeah,
and it just,
75.
yeah, never was a thing for me. And so, but my husband and I, we have season tickets to Pioneer. I love Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and my husband and I, we're fun. We're fun people. And so we dressed up, we did the whole thing just to enjoy it and whatever. But I
Yeah.
didn't totally know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
And it's way more chaotic than I realized.
Okay.
like, like the cast was phenomenal. The performances were great. And it was a fun time, but
Yeah.
there's no real plot.
No.
Like, there's no
No real
story.
plot.
Like, I guess I expected it to be more offensive than it was, but then I think that that's just probably because I grew up in
Yeah.
Utah, and so it's supposed to be like, and I wasn't offended at all, but
No.
I also was just like, um, what, and now they're aliens, what? Like the whole
Yeah.
time I just kept thinking, and I had to just kind of let go and be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
stop trying to analyze this for any rhyme or reason
Yeah.
there is none. It's there,
Yeah.
there's
And
no.
I do think that there were like little ways that they made it like a tiny bit tamer for a Utah
Mhm.
audience. Just like little things like having the the women mostly like corseted and like for this show, it was on the side of modest. Like it's
Okay.
still edgy, but I just,
Yeah, no.
I don't know if he said so. They're
Yeah.
like little things that I was like, okay, I appreciate that they were pushing their audience, but they
They
kind of
understood their
knew where
audience.
to
Yeah.
stop. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And
But yeah, so I mean
yeah.
it was fun, but yeah, I just kind of was like, I get why it's a cult classic and not
Yeah.
like moving wonderful classic. But yeah,
Hmm.
it was fun, but it definitely was just like, yeah, there's no plot.
I
My
do,
husband and I both were like, there's no plot here,
no.
is there? Not
And I do
really.
think most of the good songs are in that first act.
Yes, oh absolutely.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
The bitter songs are in the first act.
And I really liked the Brad. I thought he was my
Oh,
favorite.
yeah. Yeah,
He was
Brad was
really
fantastic.
fun.
I do think Frankenfurter was pretty good too. I loved the costumes. I actually thought the costumes were
Yeah, the
really
costumes were
different.
really good.
I I
Well,
I do think that production value was fantastic. It just
mhm,
was like being at my first experience,
yeah.
and the audience was having a fantastic time shouting back, like having fun. Like I'm sure it was just like it would be at a late night showing of the movie. They had a
Mhm,
great time, and I thought
yeah,
that was really fun.
yeah.
It just was like I should have probably prepared by seeing the movie first, and I didn't, so that was my bad.
Oh, I
But it
did think
just
that the Frank, I felt like he did try to bring a different energy than Tim
Tim
Curry.
Curry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he was a little bit more sort of like masculine, a little bit more like,
Yeah.
kind of a thing
Yeah.
about it, than
Yeah.
which was fun. And so yeah, I had a good time. I went with my friend Stacy, and
Yeah,
uh,
we had a good time, my
yeah,
husband and I, but it's just, yeah, it
it was
was
definitely
like
different.
so different. Probably one of the most different things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see a couple. Well, I guess what's some other ones that you've seen?
I went and saw A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder up at
Oh, that's right.
Heritage. Oh,
Uh-huh.
it was lovely. And I love that show. I
Yeah.
love that show, but my husband had never seen that one. And so every once in a while, my husband will like see something's coming and like be like, can you request to remove it?
Yeah.
And the thing is, for anyone who doesn't know who's listening, like I'm the vice president of Utah Theater Bloggers, And I also handled the scheduling for Weber and Davis County, but I try not to take advantage of any of that. Like, we try and make sure that we spread things around.
Yeah.
But my husband doesn't request that often. But once in a while, like, something will jump out, and it's like, and
Yeah.
that was one where it's like, this is a show he's never seen, and he gets dragged
Oh.
to a lot of things with me. And so for him to be like, oh, I really like to see that one. So I did. I kind of went out of my way to be like, can I please be the
Did
one
they
to
have a
see
good
this one?
dice quith?
They did. Oh
That's the
my
key
gosh,
to that show.
so
That's the
good.
key.
And like, beyond, like, so good, the Dice Quith. So anyone who doesn't know this show, Dice Quith is a character that plays many different family members.
Yeah.
And so he's like a different character in every single scene, that literally you would almost think it was a different person in some of the scenes.
Yeah.
That's how good this person was who played Dice Quith. I just was floored. I
Oh
was so
man.
floored. And this little theater up in Perry, Utah is just um
It's
in an
really cute.
old renovated church. And they do, I was so impressed. It was so much fun. But yeah, their
Mhm.
Dice Blitz was just like the star of the show.
And they're
So
getting better. I feel like every show I see with them of theirs, it's improving.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
haven't.
So that was probably my favorite show of the a month that I saw,
Yeah.
was
Oh, that's
Gentleman's
good.
Guide.
That's
So
fun. Well, I don't know if you got a chance to see Young Frankenstein with Zig.
so that's on my list that I'm so sad that I didn't get to see.
Mm,
It didn't work out, and I actually know some people in the cast, and so that's
mm,
why I was really sad. I had to send someone else to review it because of family obligations, and
mm.
then just so I'm gonna probably see if I can go, because the Ziegfeld shows also transfer up to
Oh
the
yeah.
Egyptian in Park City for a few
Yeah.
weeks. So I'm gonna see, but I don't know. My November is just as bad if I can go, because I don't remember what the name of the character is, but the character that yodels,
Oh yeah, Inga.
Inga, yeah, her mom is one of my best friends.
Oh, okay. She
So,
was
and
brilliant.
I actually have vocal coached her
Oh,
throughout the years. Like,
she
I
was
actually
really
helped
good.
her with her very first audition ever when she was like in seventh grade and
Yeah.
whatever. Kara Taylor,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I've known her forever. So,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, so they did. I honestly think they did the best job that I can't imagine how the show could be done much better. I really don't. Like I mean, all the singing was excellent, the staging, the production, the projections that they used, all top notch. It was really funny. If people are a fan of the movie, I mean, you can tell that Mel Brooks did this because it is like pretty
it's
much
Mel
shot
Brooks.
for shot
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Um, it is a long show though. That's the
yeah.
only flaw, because I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed it, but it's a beast. I mean, not just a long show, but like how much work. I mean, you're just watching and you're thinking, no wonder the show is not done very much, because
Mhm.
like every scene is like a big spectacle scene with lots of props and sets and everything going on. And it's a like the first act is 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like, I still have to drive home
Yeah, yeah.
to
Compared
Draper
to
after
Rocky
this.
Horror, where it was like all of a sudden it was intermission, I'm like, wow, that was short. Like, that was one really good thing for Rocky Horror. It was a short show.
Yes, it was. It was short. It's true. I mean, this thing, I mean, woo, it was it was just really long. I mean, I think somebody, if they ever do a revival, someone needs to go in there and just like there are so many numbers that were somewhat repetitive
Yeah,
and scenes that were probably like close to Milberg's heart. But
yeah.
there's just somebody that needs to
That
be like, nope, that's
you
not
gotta cut
needed.
through.
Cut, cut, cut.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
as far as execution of the show, it was excellent. And
Right.
I particularly loved a character named Elizabeth. And I mean, because in the movie, Madeline Kahn, I just think is absolutely
Oh,
hilarious. And one
Madeline
of
Kahn
my,
is a genius.
I think she was one of the funniest people to ever live, if not the funniest. And
Yes.
I, the woman that they had in the cast was really good. And
Yeah.
she has she has a song called Deep Love that she sings with the monster. This is very
Mhm.
funny. And she has a song called Don't Touch Me. That's also really funny. So she was, I think, the highlight, but Inga was very funny too. I mean, everybody was delivering.
Yeah. Was
Really.
that Morgan Perry that played that role, or was it someone else?
That sounds right. I'd have to look it up,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
great.
And I think it was, and Morgan's fantastic.
Yeah,
So yeah, it makes sense.
it was
So
really, so that
yeah.
it was fun to just check that one off my list.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
Of the highlights for me, aside from the New York trip, was the Regalo company in Lehigh did Amadeus. And
oh, cool.
That was such a cool thing to get to see, because I love the movie. It's one of my favorites. And I'd never seen, the show, the play. And it was interesting how close to the play the movie is. And I mean, it was just very well done. And it was cool when I was there. The producer came up to me, saw that because I posted on social media, that I was there, and he thanked me for, my promotion of the theater and everything. I was like, oh, that's so nice. Somebody
nice.
notices. And, especially since I'd had that one that, the theater that didn't like, I won't say them, but that didn't like my review. It's nice that somebody, appreciates what you do. And that was sweet. I also saw Sweeney Todd twice. And the only problem I had with the production at the Grand, it was the cast was top notch, professional, honestly, worthy. They could all be on Broadway. They were great. The whole cast was great. The lighting, the production was good. The only problem I had is that they were kind of obsessed with how some productions of Sweeney Todd get really excited about the idea of the slide and the chair.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And you could tell that they were super excited about this, and it was effective, but they did so much up there. It was a 2-story set. They did so much up there by the chair that they didn't really use much.
They had forgotten everything else. Yeah.
Sure. And so they're especially, and I feel like that is especially a problem at the Grand with this huge stage in this huge auditorium. If all of the action is in this one top corner, you just miss out on so much of the emotion and the hard work that the actors are doing. If it's so much of it was up there. And I just kind of wish that I kept wanting to be like, move it all up, move everything, have it more and so even though the Empress, their version was not as good as far as cast and production and just everything. It wasn't as good, but I did kind of enjoy it more because they were because it's theater in the round, basically. They were right there in my face, singing to me, performing. I got more immersed. And so they had sound problems. They had, so the acting wasn't quite as good, but I did kind of enjoy it more just because I could get more immersed in the experience.
Right. Yeah.
But they were both good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen several, like sometimes like when you get like one really amazing set thing and you're just like, oh my gosh, but then it has not been the rest of the show. You're like, okay, why did we make that the focal point and not mix everything else? So that can be frustrating.
And I mean, and we both saw, and we've talked about before, about that incredible production of West Valley, Sweeney Todd, and I will never forget it.
That's the best production in Utah that I've ever seen. And I saw Pioneers, and I saw one down at Utah Valley that was done with equity actors and everything. And I saw this off-Broadway production of Sweeney Todd that is the best Sweeney Todd I've ever seen. But next to that, this one at West Valley was the best one I've ever seen.
It was so good. Well, speaking of West Valley, I did go to their current show, and I always hate being kind of tough on stuff, but they're doing this Sleepy Hollow, which I guess is locally written by Utah talent and everything. And I haven't read the book in a while, so I don't know how like accurate or not accurate it is, but it was not for me. I did not enjoy the write-up in UTBA was pretty positive, so to each their own. But
it just depends on the critic, for sure.
It was not for me. I just pretty much didn't like anything about it. I really thought about leaving in the intermission, and I maybe should have, because I didn't like the music. I didn't like it was just so. There was nothing fun about it. You couldn't get into like the Hollywood, you couldn't get into the Halloween spirit of it all, because it was all just so serious and taking itself all very seriously. And it made me yearn to see Into the Woods. I was like, that was
wow. And you don't like Into the Woods.
I don't like Into the Woods. I felt like all the songs were really bland. I hated the backtrack that they were using. It was really bad. And it was just no fun.
Interesting.
So
and I don't know anything about this version of Sleepy Hollow or the artists that have done it, but normally I love everything that West Valley Arts has done, so that's very interesting to hear, because I after you had told me that, I looked at our review, and the person we sent loved it, so it is interesting to know, and something I think that's really important to remind people about theater is how different and diverse it is, because I'll have so many conversations with people who will say, well, I just don't like theater, and it's like, well, then you haven't seen enough theater.
That's what I always say when people
so much.
That's what I always say when people say, oh, I don't like anime. I'm like, well, you just haven't found the right anime, because it's as varied as any other medium.
Exactly. My kids actually made me sit down and watch an older anime movie the other day, because my daughters both love anime, and it was adorable. And most of the time I like think of the more of the gore side of anime, but that's not all of it. So there's so much out there.
Or a lot of people just think of like Pokemon or the Digimon or those kind of shows. There's a lot of variety.
So speaking of Into the Woods, I did see Hope Fox in Kaysville's production of Into the Woods, and it was overall charming. The witch that I saw had some stumbling with her lines and things, which was very strange to me.
That's really unusual.
I just don't know if she was having a bad night or whatever. But other than that, and I, because we've had this conversation a lot because of your feelings about Into the Woods, and where I fall on the other end, that I absolutely adore Into the Woods. But I was thinking about it too, because of seeing it and writing the review for it, and why I like it so much. And I had a really, really touching and moving moment while watching it, especially the finale. And part of it, I think, had to do with having lost my mom this summer. And at the finale, they kind of go through that, there's the line where sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. But then also, as a therapist for my day job, in the end, after we've been through this whole long story, and this very intricate way that Sondheim and James Lapine have told the stories and interjected all the different stories and gone through all of it, then they talk about how in the storytelling, it is that you can't just listen, you have to act. That there's always woods, and we always have to go into the woods, and there's always wolves, and there's always trees, and there's always obstacles, and we're just living our lives and going through it. And I just sat there listening to that and thinking about how often that's what I'm doing as a therapist, is helping people know that when we're learning about our coping skills and everything, we're not, doing something where so many people come into me and say, well, just make my depression go away, or just make my disorder go away. And that's not, it's not what we do in therapy.
That makes sense.
What we're doing is we're learning to live and learning to go through. And I have a lot of people, and again, entertainment is what we make of it, and that's fine. But I have a lot of people who will tell me they don't like some of the darker shows, some of the Into the Woods and things like that, because they just want a happy ending. But I like the deeper shows where we have to look through the happy endings and things like that, because that's what I look at as a therapist, is that we don't always have a happy ending. We have to learn to cope with the challenges, which is what I look at the 5 characters that
Mhm.
are there at the end of Into the Woods, and how they've learned to rebuild their life even though
Mhm.
everything else has fallen apart. So I found it deeply
Yeah.
moving.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely that that it's the things might not turn out the way that you expect them to, that you want them to, but
Mhm.
that's okay. And
Yeah.
Into the Woods is one of those shows that I think I would be fine with if I just seen it, a couple times, maybe just when my
Mhm.
sister did it.
Mhm.
But I've just seen it. I think I after I saw it this last time at West Valley, actually, I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, I think I need to take a break. I think
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
need a break. So I haven't
Well,
seen
and
it
that's
again maybe
that's
for a
my
while.
opinion about Joseph. Like, I've seen Joseph enough
Mm,
times to ever,
yeah.
like, because for me that's the one that's overdone here,
Mm,
that if I have to see it one more time, I'd
yeah.
be fine if I had seen it the 3
Right.
times I had seen it in high
Yeah.
school and that was enough. So,
Well,
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
is overdone is I saw the Music Man
yeah.
at at Hale Orem, and I have to say I did not love this version.
Oh, that's
First
too
of all,
bad.
I know. I mean, I liked a lot of things about it because I like the Music Man.
Right.
But some of their choices I didn't love, particularly the Harold Hill. He had a very sort of comedic, hamming it up kind of
Mm.
approach to the
Mhm.
role. And I was playing some of the clips to a friend, and she's like, "Oh, that's how he's supposed to be in those roles and so those songs like Mary and the Librarian." And I get it, like he is kind of being a little annoying and a little, but he's also trying to like schmooze her. Like I guess the way that I see the character is he's a salesman. He's even if he is being a little over the top, he's always trying to make the sale.
Right.
And
And that's it is who Harold is.
yeah. And so this was just he was really mugging it. He was really
Mhm.
hamming it up, I thought. And I'll have to send you the same clip to see if you agree
Okay.
because I don't know, I just thought he was too silly.
Sure.
It was too much for me. And then I also thought it was really strange. There must have been some problem because they didn't have Winthrop sing Gary, Indiana. There must have been some problem
Oh, that's
with
strange. Yeah.
yeah, they just had
That
Harold.
doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. so uh yeah, I kind of want to see the other cast because
Mhm.
the other cast has the actor Bronson, I can't think of his last name also, but I follow him on Instagram and I really liked other things I've seen with him. So I'm like, oh, I would like to maybe go again and see not that I need to see the Music Man again. I've seen
Mhm.
it 3 times just since the summer. But but I don't know, I just would like to see his take on it, but
Mhm.
it wasn't my favorite just because and even Marion was a little hammy, was a
Mhm.
little like kind of playing
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
and so it just wasn't my favorite
Right.
interpretation.
Yeah. And I think that, that personally, my husband and I were talking about this last night too, after seeing Rocky Horror. Like, while I can say there are like what I dislike about Music Man is plot points or whatever else, but there is a
Yeah.
plot. It is written
Yeah,
well. There
that's
is,
true.
and I have seen fantastic versions of it because the music in Music Man is fantastic. And there are, you and I both saw the Broadway production with Hugh Jackman, and it was brilliant. It was so well done. And I have seen Centerpoint's production that they did a few years back
Oh,
of Music Man.
That was the best I've ever seen.
And I wanted every hat on that stage because I love hats, and the costumes in that were just like so beautiful. So I can appreciate so much about a Music Man. So it does make me sad to hear a bad production done of the Music Man, or not as of a production of the Music Man, because there is a lot that you can work with the material to make it good. Because I can go as a critic and objectively watch that and be like, I absolutely see why people love this. It's not for me, but I see why people love this show.
Yeah, and I think the UTBA review, I think she saw the other cast. That's another reason why I'm like curious, because I saw Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and she saw, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so I'm curious, because she was like, it's the she was, you know, raves about it. So anyway, but you know, it's just, I can see how other people that want like a little bit more silly, don't want it to be as serious, I can see why they might like that version. It was just, you know, a choice. And but the one of my favorites of this whole month was actually at Timpanogos Theater in American Fork. They did Addams Family, which is not my favorite show, but they were great. I think that they borrowed a lot of sets and costumes from Centerpoint and other places. They had thank you at the end of the thing, because it was very impressive. For a small theater, that I thought it was, the quality of everything was extremely impressive in all of that. But the Gomez and the Morticia were outstanding. Excellent.
The funny thing about that show is that it's not a great show.
No.
But if you get a good cast, last year Clearfield Community Arts, their city, did the best version of Addams Family. And it's like Clearfield City, like they're just this tiny little theater in this tiny little community. I mean, I live in Clearfield and I love Clearfield Community Arts, but we have no money. Like we're just a tiny little city of nothing. But they had the best time, and they did so much with their ancestors. Every one of their ancestors were wandering through the audience with just like these
I love that.
Like, every ancestor had a character. Like this one guy obviously had died during a football game, so he was walking around carrying the football like it was a little baby. And just these things that I mean, you can do so much with that show as a community theater. Like I could not believe how much I loved that community spirit in the Clearfield City's production of Addams Family. So I love that. I love to hear that, because it's one of those shows where it's like, I would never have wanted to spend the money to see the Broadway production of Addams Family, and I'm glad I didn't.
No,
but I love seeing a good community production of Addams Family. I saw it at the Zig when they did it years ago too, and I loved it. In fact, that Cara Taylor played Wednesday in that production, and she did fantastic. But it can be so fun.
Like that the full disclosure segment, that is rough. That goes on so long, and it's such it's just I just hate that whole section. And
it's not a great song, not a great number.
It has major problems, but they were just so good. I just really was impressed with especially the Morticia and Gomez.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
If somebody had told me they were a real life couple, I would have believed it. That's how good they were together.
Fun. That's really fun.
The last thing that I saw, that I'll mention, was I saw War of the Worlds at the Covey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and one cool thing is this was directed by Adam Cannon, who was on our Schmigadoon recap.
Yeah, okay.
Our friend, and I remember when he was doing the auditioning, that he was really struggling. He was posting on Facebook and stuff, struggling to get people to come out and audition. So I was very impressed with the cast that he managed to get. And they did have a bunch of people. I don't know what we call it, gender swapping, but playing
gender bending is what
gender bending. Yeah. And so they like had a woman playing Orson Welles, and it didn't matter. She was really good. And all the stuff between there was Orson Welles, the producer, and the writer that I
Mhm.
thought really worked and was worth it to go. And I've
Mhm.
always really loved like old time radio, you know,
Mhm.
and I love like Foley and seeing the different sounds you
Yeah.
make. Like I've always
Yeah.
really liked
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I actually really love shows when they actually have a Foley
Mhm.
artist on stage. Um there's a show, what is It's a Wonderful Life radio play.
Oh, do you
They
saw
have
that?
a Yeah, but I haven't seen it this year, but I've seen it
Oh,
many
yeah.
times. And they have a Foley artist on stage, and that's one of my
Mhm.
very favorite things.
Or sometimes when you go to the 39 steps, I've
Yes,
seen
they'll
that
have
they'll
a
have a
Foley artist.
Foley,
Yeah.
which is
Hmm.
so fun.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Some of the I told Adam this, I said if they were going to work on the script, because I think it is local, if they were
Mhm.
going to work on the script, I would have them just remove all of they should have these little vignettes of showing the different people, and it
Mhm.
just made them all like the listeners responding, they all felt like kind of hicks and buffoons and idiots and stuff like that. And so I didn't really care about any of that. But when it was just about, you know, Orson and the producer and the writer, that was in the making of the actual show, that was
Mhm.
good.
That's
So,
awesome.
but
That sounds really interesting, because
yeah, it was
I
interesting.
I love this too, that like a lot of people, when I've gone to the American Theater Critics conference before, a lot of times they'll say, well, you know, we're so lucky here in New York, we get all these new shows and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
don't even know how much new work we get here in Utah.
Yeah.
And so I love it. You know, like we really do. We have new works and new writers and new things. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes they're hits and sometimes they're misses, but it's awesome. I love supporting the fact that it's not just, even though, yeah, maybe we see Into the Woods more than you would like or whatever, but we have new
Yeah.
work out there too. And so I hope that people go out and
Yeah.
support that.
Yeah, because I mean, in a certain way, we have it even better than the New York critics, because, you know, they have how many how many Broadway theaters are there? What, 40?
41.
41. And if they get a residency, which of course is what you want, they're not going to change. But we
Right.
get new shows at our places every 3 months, you know? And so,
Right. Yeah.
and I was talking to Mark Bonanni about this, and he was saying that he was like, you get to see so many more
Right.
shows just
Yep.
than we could ever see here, because
Yeah.
there's just more.
Yeah,
in a
Wicked
way.
is having its 20th anniversary
Yeah.
this month. And so it's been 20 years at the
20
Gershwin,
years.
which is the largest Broadway house. So it
Mhm.
has occupied the house with the biggest amount of seating for 20 years. And
Mhm.
so no one can take that prime real estate, and
Mhm.
it's not going to close anytime soon.
No.
So it's because it's one of the biggest tourist attractions. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's absolutely true, where we can and do get to see such a different variety of things.
Mhm.
I feel like I get such an education as a theater critic out here. And I also love the fact that we get to see, yeah, like if you're a critic of any noteworthiness in New York, you'll go into the off Broadway and the off Broadway and some of the other stuff, and not
Mhm.
just stick to
Yeah.
Broadway. But I feel like we get to see such a variety, from the pioneer and the touring all the way down to, you know, your Clearfield Community Arts.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I feel like we see so much raw hidden talent and so many other things that you don't see when you're just focused on only professional all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And you get to see these classics that, unless there happens to be a revival,
Yep.
that they don't get to see as
Yep,
much,
absolutely.
as
It's so much fun. This is
Mhm.
People always ask me, why do I do this? Because I have such a busy life in my career as well. And I'm like, this is my
Mhm.
self-care. This
Yeah.
is what keeps me going like knowing that I get to see how like hundreds of shows every year. It's
Mhm.
so fantastic.
It's really, and it's such a great way to kind of be with a community, and it is so exciting. Like going to this Adams Family, because I was like, "Ugh, do I really I'm tired. Do I really want
Right.
to go? But I had my tickets. I'm like, I'm gonna go. I told
Yep.
them I would go on social
Yep.
media. And so I went, and it was just
Yeah.
so good and so
Yeah,
much
that's how
fun.
I
I
felt
was so
about the
proud
Into
of
the
them.
Woods too. Like I had been tired, it'd been a long
Yeah.
week, and then you're moved by the end. It's just like,
Yeah.
and you're moved by the fact that you've got all these different people up there who knows? This guy might be a doctor, guy might be an accountant, whatever else, and then
Yeah.
they're up there singing about beanstalks, and it's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
so lovely.
Very good. Yes. Well, let us know if you're listening what you have seen. And I'm also really excited because I just turned in my article for Onstage Blog. I had my first article that I ever did for them last month, where I did a like travel log of my trip to New
Wonderful.
York. And
I love that.
I didn't know, I'll have to send it to you. I didn't know if they would like it, because I mean, that I had pitched the idea, but I was like, this is pretty personal, this piece that I wrote. And so I didn't know if they would like it, but they did, and they published it and everything. So that was really cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And so now I've done a second one where I called it Ranking the October Shows, where I came up with a list of 11. So not everything, but I came up with a list of 11 shows that a lot of the ones that we've talked about, and ranked them. And so we'll see what they think of that. So, but I'm
Very
excited
cool.
to be writing for
Very
them.
cool. That's wonderful, Rachel.
And doing something different than I do for UTBA, because you know, they don't do reviews at Onstage Blog. This is just features, you know. So
yeah, sure.
So anyway, well, thanks so much. And people want to follow you on socials, or
on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything, I'm just Maren Swenson, and on TikTok I'm Doc Broadway, and Utah Theater Bloggers, of course, we're just there, we're both there, just on Utah Theater Bloggers.
Well, and check out the entire Theater Tuesday playlist. There's lots of good stuff going on there, and I really am proud of the series. So we've almost at 30, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
Very exciting. Yeah. And so please take a look at that. I'll have the playlist in the description. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and at rachelsreviewstheater.com. And if you were listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. Also have the Patreon group, which we have also have the Patreon group, which is a lot of fun, and the merch store, where we have I'm a Theater Girl shirts that just came out this week. So check that out. And thanks so much. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.